Crack-a-lackin'. So thank you everyone for taking that little pause. And we're gonna crack straight on with hope in terms of we've been speaking a little bit about the divine, and I'm gonna use that to segue into the segment about travel, which is one of my favorite places to be sometimes is airports, apart from all the air conditioning that dries your skin out and makes me feel crap
Yeah.
for like the next 24 hours. But I really like airports, and in particular, I really like the prayer rooms at airports because they're multi-faith. Love that because you get to see different people practicing in different ways sometimes. And the other place is I find this quite poignant is prayer rooms or multi-faith rooms or chaplains in hospitals as well, because those are two places that I see hope a lot. I'm a bit poetic in that sense. Sorry, Raihan, you're gonna have to excuse me in that because I see people praying in their usual ways, hands folded, bowing down, whatever they do, right? But I just feel like there's an increased element of hope at the hospitals, chaplains, or at the airport because there's a hope of wanting the person I'm coming to visit get better, wanting us to be rid of this disease, wanting us to have a healthy birth, whatever it is, or at airports wanting us to meet our loved ones again, wanting them to go off again in safe hands and so on. There's a real sense of hope there. Tell me if hope instigated anything amongst your travels when you were not even on the plane yet.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, I think I was always like I definitely had that bug to travel. So I guess for context, I recently well, I was working in finance for British Airways for about was just over 2 years, and I think it was getting to the point where I wasn't really enjoying the job. I wasn't very fulfilled. I wasn't very good at the job either. Sadly, I do not engage the stereotype of being good at maths. So it's just, and my job was very math heavy. So I was like, what am I doing here? I'm just
What was your
abroad.
undergrad in?
Sorry.
What was your undergraduate in?
So I did international business. So it was very like you can kind of very flexible and very teaches you good practical stuff.
Hmm.
But basically business management, but it sounds cooler and you can study abroad. So I studied abroad in Singapore for 6 months and yeah, had a
Nice.
but yeah. So I think at the time when I left uni, I was torn between because my heart always wanted to do something creative, but then my brain said, Rayhan, Ray, you need a job. And this was also after my mother passing away. So I was like, okay, I need to support the family. What's a stable profession? What looks good as well? So I thought, okay, I'll do finance or investment banking, and it seemed stable, and there's kind of a clear because a lot of these graduate schemes, because I was on a graduate scheme, and they do the same where they pay for your accounting qualification or investment banking qualification. So I thought, okay, at least I can get something out of it. So yeah, I did. I started out in British Airways, on their finance graduate scheme, very well esteemed, all that jazz. And you know what? Like that's one thing. I think the industry itself is fascinating, and yeah, no, there's lots of stuff that I enjoyed about it, and also the flying that was definitely a major pull.
That's not
So
a
like
perk.
that was a major, exactly. Like if it, to be honest, if it wasn't for the flying, I probably would have left a lot sooner. Like I sometimes equate it to being in a relationship with an abusive boyfriend where beat you up every now and then, look ugly, but then every now and then he says you look pretty, or he gives you a nice bracelet, and then the bracelet was the equivalent of the free staff travel. So you'll be like, oh, he still loves me. But okay, maybe that's a dramatic comparison, but that's how it
Yeah, I was
felt.
gonna
Like,
say. So to
yeah,
our dear listeners, we call that love bombing.
yeah,
Not
exactly.
healthy. If you recognize any of this, reach out because wow. Hey,
Help! This is you need some help. Get out of there. Get out of there as fast as you can. So yeah, that was my relation. And to be honest, I'll be honest. My first year at BA was very not great. I had a crap manager, and also I was going through. I think I was going through some kind of PTSD from my mum because it was a year afterwards, but the emotions didn't hit me until I got into work, and then I had like the worst manager I could have at the time. Not a very warm atmosphere. Yeah, not to. Well, actually, I don't work there anymore, so I can I can be honest. It was a very warm atmosphere, and there's definitely, I mean, to be fair, it's probably like this in a lot of corporate jobs where like there's a lot of brown nosing. And there'll be this thing where even though you do have a lot of like Asians there, you'll have to kind of be a certain type of Asian to be acceptable.
Mm,
And like I don't know, I didn't like the idea of that, even though like because of the way I sound, like oh he sounds well spoken, he can fit in. But like there'll be certain Asians who are like proper Asian, but they haven't got far or they haven't progressed because they maybe they don't go to the Thursday pub session, or maybe they're not like they
yeah.
don't. So it'll be very nuanced and very like it'll be stuff that you can't really prove. It's and that's another thing where like there was definitely I had some kind of I think my first manager was potentially racist, but it was like the subtle racism that you can't really prove, which is the most frustrating type because you're like, I know those cues, but I can't prove it, but I know it's there, and it's not a nice feeling. And so that's why my first year wasn't great. But then my second year was very good because I had a manager who was literally an angel. It was funny because he was a big guy. He looks like Tyson Fury, but he's like a big friendly giant, super friendly guy. But then I really had a taste of what my actual job was. So in my second year, I was a finance business partner for FlyTops, which essentially looks at pilot pay. And then my area in particular was that I managed the spending costs, the OPEX and the CAPEX for the flight training simulator. So managing the spend there. I also did some work helping out on the because we also were involved in securing accommodation for pilots and cabin crew. So yeah, so that was kind of my area. And to be fair, like the areas were very interesting, but I think the numbers bits, I just didn't find interesting. I liked talking to people and I liked, doing things that are more creative. And I was like, yeah, the numbers are great, but they don't really talk back to you. They don't hold their conversation very well. It's a bit dry. So yeah, and it got to the point where I wasn't really enjoying it. I wasn't good at it. And then you also had the balance, you had the combination of work stress and exam stress because I was doing SEMA, which is like a management accounting job.
Oh,
So and to be fair, I wasn't doing very well in the exams anyway. So I was like, oh, what's the point in trying to like give my all into something that my heart's just not in? And even now I reflect, I'm thinking I could have really pushed through it, but then if because my plan was to at least get qualified, not leave halfway through, which is what I did. But it got to the point where it was just affecting my mental health too much, and I wasn't enjoying it. And you know what? The You can only have so many free flights, and to be fair, I don't even like flying. I like the going to the places. I just see the flying as a means, and
yeah.
that's I kind of regret tasting business class because once you taste business class, it's very hard to go back. And it's no, yeah, you're like, wow, this is how parts of society live, and I'm like, wow, this shouldn't, this is too nice. Like literally, where you're in business class and the whole seat becomes a bed and stuff, and you're like, wow.
Stop it right now. This is all Rayhan's doing is being like, you lot are peasants. I am royalty, and I'm not going any less. I've never
Yeah,
gone business class before, but it's one of my life's ambitions. It's one of my hopes in life.
you could definitely build up those mileage points. Your Avios points and whatnot. It's definitely I know loads of people who've done it that way, and no, definitely if you can try at least once, and then forget. Well, actually, no, I'm glad to have tried. At least before I left, I did one big trip to Singapore and then Sydney. So I feel like I did my fair share of traveling.
Mm.
But yeah, so
So
I forget. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
no, I was gonna say, so you're like this is like a good 2 year chunk of your life before you've done your traveling, before you've had your like big career, who am I, where am I going in life, all that kind of stuff, right? And I know the question was about how did hope serve you before you even got onto a plane? And I mean that about like your traveling experience.
Sorry, I gave big
It,
context.
no, it's fine. But with that context though, like how were you going from one year to another slash trying to navigate these exams with very little hope with what you wanted, or were you just not aware? Like 'cause sometimes when you don't know what you want out of life, sometimes hope feels a bit meaningless.
Yeah, so I think not gonna lie, I was conflicted. Like I think there were probably three occasions where I contemplated resigning early, and I think yeah, there was a constant balance of like, should I keep doing this? What's the pros and cons? I find doing a pros and cons list, as basic as it sounds, has really helped me through like yeah, kind of contemplating when I'm at a crossroads of destiny, one might
This is
say.
just reminding me of do
Yeah,
you watch Friends?
I do watch Friends. Yes.
This is when like Ross wrote a pros and cons list of Rachel and I think it was Julie. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
and he accidentally prints it, and then Chandler's like, it's printing," and then yeah,
And then Rachel reads it. I'm dead.
yeah, that is like Murphy's Law in action. I love it. But yeah, pros and cons list, you can't ever go wrong. But oh, wait, what was I saying?
Sorry,
Yeah,
you were saying about pros and cons about your career trajectory.
yes. And then what got me through it? And actually, I think there was one like I had like a eureka moment where I realized my life wasn't in finance, and I think that's actually what spurred me on to like going to filmmaking. It was like because the funny thing at BA, I had a reputation, but it wasn't for like finance work. It was always for something outside of work. So there was one thing where like there was a talent show, and it was called BA's Got Talent, and I did like a saxophone riff. My band name was called Asian Persuasion, which I thought was kind of catchy. I didn't win, sadly, but I got good praise, and they were good guests as well. The judges, I don't know if you know Nikita from she hosts BBC Asian Radio.
Yeah.
She was a host. There are a few other like fairly known people, and yeah, they were super friendly. And yeah, I was known for that. And then there was also this other project where one of the heads of finance, she knew I was into filmmaking and asked me, "Hey, we've got this finance initiative we want to promote." Because basically, the initiative was a response to a recent a survey that was taking place throughout the company, and basically the results of the survey said, "Oh, we don't enjoy. We're passionate about BA, but we don't enjoy. We wouldn't recommend working at BA." And basically, employees weren't too happy. So finance had their own survey where they had to kind of come up with initiatives to improve it. So that could be stuff like leadership training or stuff about like getting people to be more tech savvy, whether that's with social media and stuff. And then there was one about how to properly brand yourself. So stuff like that. And then they came to me saying we want to make a mini promo video to promote it and showcase it to not just to BA but other because BA was part of IAG, which is our parent company. So it would almost be like BA would be the big brother, and then you'd have other companies like Aer Lingus, which is an Irish carrier airline, of Welling, which is a cheap airline, looks like McDonald's to be honest. You'd also have Iberia, which is the Spanish one. So yeah, so they wanted to make a promo video for that, and then I remember their idea was just to have a piece to camera where they talk about them, and I was thinking, wow, that sounds so fun, exciting. So and then I had an idea, and I didn't think they'd go with it, but basically my idea was to basically present each scheme because each initiative was run by a specific head or senior person. So I was like, we could introduce each scheme like a heist character because like heist films they'll sometimes have like that intro where they show them like you'd have like the code break or you'd have like the getaway driver and I was like we could like yeah showcase them and have a cool like flashy kind of quick 1 minute video just with some kind of Ocean's 11 music in the background and have some cool like still shots of them with some flashy backgrounds and then yeah maybe at the end I have them all walking in the distance and then I pitched the idea and then they said they loved it and then they said when can you make an editor and I was like oh I thought I was just helping because they had an actual videographer on
Mm,
paid and I thought he was going to do it and then I was going to help and then I ended up doing the whole thing but to be honest as stressful as it was because literally I did it in 1 day and then they said, "Oh, we need it edited and finished like the next morning." I was like, "Yo, this editing takes a while. Like, come on, I still have actual work to do as well." But as stressful as it was, in my head, I was thinking, "Wow!" While I was doing and directing, like the CEO or like directing people very senior, like telling them what to do, like in terms of like, "Oh, you position there," and I had like my camera and stuff. And I was thinking, "Wow, this is actually fun and I'm actually kind of good at it, I think." And I was thinking, wow, I'm in the wrong profession. I should be doing stuff like this because even though it was stress I enjoyed. And
mm,
that's really what ticked me off to think, oh, wow, maybe this is what I should be doing. And that's what kind of made me spur on from finance to filmmaking. So one F to another. And yeah, and the rest is history. Well, I mean, I say the rest is history, but it's about to start tomorrow. So that's why tomorrow I start my master's in filmmaking, it feels like it's the chapter of what I really wanted to do. Like the start of my actual career kind of thing. Oh, sorry, hello, mate. Sorry, my cat's made a cameo appearance, mate.
Hello.
Hello, is his name? His name is Pasha. Pasha, do you want to say hi to Afsar? Do you want to say hi?
Pasha heard filmmaking was like, sorry, main character. Did someone call for me?
Such a main character. It's because he's a very good looking ragdoll cat, and he knows it.
Oh,
So, uh,
player.
all right, easy, son. Remember, you are neutered, so you can't be too cheeky. Sorry, I won't. I'm sorry. It was for your own good. Okay, I digress. But
He's been humbled.
he's been humbled, not by choice. Yeah. Yeah, and then
I think
so
you've
going
just given me the title of the episode, From Finance to Filmmaking,
exactly.
How Hope Plays a Part. I love that.
Yeah.
I would just like to say to any British Airways listeners that I have no affiliation with Raihan. So if you want to give any of his fair share of the free flights to me, I volunteer as tribute, number one. And number two, equally, if you're up to any kind of leadership training, as you mentioned, or any of those needs that need fulfilling, also available for custom, hit me up, email me, get in touch. I'm
There
not
you go.
affiliated with Rayhan. Who's Rayhan? What? Who?
Random guy who works in I don't know baggage or something. I don't know.
You know, yeah, probably. But I love that. I actually, you know what? I wanted to take it into the route of travel, but I'm so glad you've segued into career because so many things that we got from there, which is that and it's one of the reasons why I love using the character strength survey because it helps people to tap into what it is that they actually want to do. So many people, like the whole premise of the business called Muted Healing is to help people to mute the noises that have taken them away from who they truly are. And then through time and the right work, etc., they can tap into what their actual authentic voice is so they can do stuff that they love, whether it's finance or filmmaking or whatever it is. But life's too short, man, to be stuck in one job for the rest of your life, especially
Exactly.
one that you don't enjoy. And albeit stressful, it was good, like that kind of stress that you experienced helped your creative juices. You felt validated. It was just positives coming out from it. So what was that journey like for you to like? Was it an easy transition to be like, yeah, resignation done. I'm going to apply for this master's, or was there a bit more legwork? Because for me, that it took a little bit of Asian persuasion.
Yeah, good point. Because I think a lot of it was, well, there'd be the rational side from what internally I'd be thinking, as well as the fact that people around me are saying, you have a very stable job. It was very hard to get this job. You have free flights. You're gonna let that all go. Especially people around me, like friends and family, did not like
Mm.
because they were getting free flights as well. So like, I took my sister to visit my other sister in Japan. Had good fun there. I took my friends to Mexico, and that's one thing I missed about it. I liked being able to treat others. That made me feel good. Maybe I'm being selfish because it made me feel good, but it was still nice to treat others, to travel and stuff. And
You're thinking about the other Friends episode now, aren't you, with Phoebe and the selfless act?
oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it all ties in together.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah. But yeah. So what was so what again? No, I got I
Was it an easy transition into filmmaking, like from that
yeah.
experience, or did you still have to do a bit of persuasion?
So I think yeah. In terms of transitioning, I think it was tough in the sense that there's so much I don't know about the film and TV industry. So I've got a lot of learning to do. But then it wasn't difficult in the sense that like you just have a gut feeling, and my gut just didn't have any regrets. Like when I gave in my resignation, like even today, even though like now I'm very unemployed and now I need to find a part-time job to sustain myself, I don't regret leaving that job one bit just because it just wasn't fulfilling me like, emotionally, spiritually, like on a deep level. So I don't regret that. And it just, when you just have that innate feeling where it just feels right. And to be honest, sometimes you need to go through crappy jobs to know what, you don't want. And then, everything works in polarity. So I feel like if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't appreciate my next journey, like you wouldn't know hunger unless you've known what it's like to be full. And, you wouldn't know what it's like to be warm unless you felt cold and vice versa. So I feel like having the experience of the other side will add some color to the next chapter of my life. So no, I'm definitely glad I had the experience, and so it's been easy in that sense. But then in terms of where it's been not so easy is that my sisters are not, well, definitely in the beginning they weren't very on board with the idea of about me leaving my finance job to do filmmaking. And yeah, they weren't very like I remember when I first told them, like my older sister, like she used to say, "Oh, I guess she'd say I'm getting stressed out just hearing about it. I need to brace myself." And I'm like, "You need to brace yourself. I'm the one who needs to brace myself to, it's a big step for me." But yeah, so my sisters were not keen on it, and they were not, yeah. They, to be fair, I'm sure they were thinking, rationally, and they were thinking about logistics, like, oh, how are you gonna like pay for stuff, and this is a big career that you're potentially throwing away. So I think it comes from a place of love, but also I think it also comes from a place of because they even admitted the fact that because of the way I was brought up versus them. Because like I said, it goes back to the fact that I was a mummy's boy. I was the favorite. I think a lot of Asian mums do this where they favor the son. So I definitely had a slightly easier upbringing compared to my sisters, where there was a lot more pressure exerted on them versus me. So I kind of had the creative bandwidth to be able to even have these thoughts to see filmmaking as a credible um, prospect as a career. Whereas for my sisters, the way they were brought up, they weren't even allowed the space to contemplate doing something in the arts because it just for them they were told it's not feasible. You either have to be a doctor or lawyer. Like my parents tried to make my elder sister a doctor for a long time, and yeah, I think there's a lot of unfulfilled desires that I think they resent me for the fact that I'm pursuing something, and deep down, I think maybe they resent that because they wish they could do this, but they feel like they can't. And I say, you know what, you can, and I say life is short, and that's why I think um, having my mum pass away definitely gave me perspective of the finality of life. So that hasn't been easy. My sister's not being on board, and yeah, I can't lie. Sometimes it does hurt because if they were supportive, that would have been nice.
Mm.
But that kind of gives me more fuel to prove them wrong. And but to be fair, today, like even today, they've improved a lot. Like they're definitely not as anti. But then even today, if I bring it up, they're not happy. They're not overjoyed to hear if I talk about film stuff. So it's definitely one where I it's mainly I go to my friends or even my cousins who are more, you know, um, open to hearing about that stuff. I'd go to about film stuff. Like with my sisters, I try not to talk about film stuff because I can tell that they're stressed out about hearing about it because they're still thinking, oh, is this a good idea? They're happy for me now, but yeah, I think yeah, not having them on board, yeah, it makes me a bit sad. But what can you do? That's life.
I think there's a couple of things that I've got from you there, and again, feel free to correct me if they don't resonate with you. But one thing I took away from what you were saying is, again, that added um, evidence, if you like, to the fact that hope never really goes away. It's kind of there, but just maybe waxes and wanes, goes up and down. Even at times where, for example, like 2020 was a turbulent year for you, hope might have been at rock bottom, kind of all right, what's next? I mean,
Mm.
this, and I don't think you were working at the time. You were in your final year of uni,
Yes, oh,
um, looking for a job. So you're probably also thinking, well, am I going to get a job? Am I in the right frame of mind to get a job? There was, like you mentioned, post-traumatic stress from losing your mother, then going into this job and so on. At that time, hope is fairly low, but then it's weird that even during those times, you find ways to kind of pick it up again. And that was, yeah, through the process of just going through it, just carry on going because you don't really know. Most importantly, was listening to your gut. So maybe finance was what made sense to you because of what you just graduated in. BA, free flights, great, but my gut's not in it, my heart's not in it, my soul's not in it. But then one experience of filmmaking, and that felt like, oh, something feels really right here. When you said that you resign, it really resonated with me. When you hit that resign button or you sign that paper, you submit it to your manager, it's really telling then. It's really telling then whether you made the right choice or not. Because if you don't feel bad about it, chances are you made a very good choice. And I noticed, like, even throughout, it's also one of those things where I'm never going to know whether I made a good choice or not unless I'm actually in it. 2 years later, is it 2 years? Yeah, 2 years on now. Oh my God, it's my 2 year anniversary, I think, coming up very soon of handing in my resignation to teaching, which I thought was going to be my end
wow,
game career.
yeah,
Um, To
And
this
how long
day,
for? Just out of curiosity. Were
I
you second?
was 8 years. I taught 8 years, and it very much stagnated. It was kind of getting to a point where it was like, all right, obviously the next steps were head of department, head of year. I already did a bit of head of department, middle management, senior leadership team, head teacher, but I had no desire to be up there if I was already miserable down here. The money's not going to make anything better because it's going to be the same shit, different day, right? Um, or different types of shit, if you like. But that just kind of cemented 2 years on. Like I was recently working on a film set. And it's really weird because over 2 years I've had a fair bit of career. I don't even want to say change. I've tried a bit of everything, if you like. I was
Meandering.
proper meander. I was driving back from my last day of set. Like the film had wrapped, done, and it was a Sunday. Driving back home. The next day was a work day for the rest of the world. And I was thinking, can you imagine if I had to go back to work in school tomorrow? I almost cried at the thought of perhaps having to do that. But I
Yeah.
felt this immense sense of gratitude at the hope that I had in myself 2 years ago and the hope that I had in myself in January when I said yes to this film job. That, you know what, I'm so happy that I leaned into my hope because with hope, you can't just leave it to do its thing. You also kind of have to put in a bit of the legwork. Like I hope for a good outcome of this, but it is also going to be what I make of it. So I can choose to be a miserable sod every day on set, or I can choose to learn and grow and chat to the people that I need to chat to, etc., and take all the challenges on the chin and then move on. And I was grateful to myself that I made those choices because it felt like hope has a reward at the end of it, and that reward, it's not like someone else gifting it to you, it comes from within. That's the best kind of reward.
No, that's well put. Yeah. No, I like the idea of like hope being like we went said earlier, inner fuel, inner strength to kind of get you through things. And yeah, it's almost like it's an active choice as well, isn't it? You kind of choose to have hope to get you through whatever you want to do. And yeah, it's a powerful tool that can, yeah, it's just so you can bend it to whatever means that you need to.
100. There's something there about, again, when you said about active choice, I can't believe how much of a non-choice I thought it was when I was growing up. In my victim era, in my, the world owes me, and I've had a really hard life, etc., etc. There were so many opportunities that I could have had or didn't say yes to because I was so in the worried zone about how things would turn out, or what my parents going to think, or what's my religion going to think, or what's my culture going to think, and what's this person going to think, and all of those things that I was doing was taking away my sense of choice.
Mm.
When it really all along I had the choice, I just wasn't brave enough to exercise it. And I think along with hope and choice comes a sense of bravery as well. Um, I would just say to you, I know you didn't ask, but it's a really exciting time for you tomorrow. I know you're already like probably looking forward to it, but as much as it is weird, wonderful, maybe. And you said it would be nice to have your sisters on side. You already know that your heart and soul are in this more than your previous career choice. So already that hope is starting to play some kind of fruition, and I hope you take some part in that.
No, no, definitely. Like as I was saying before, the it just feels right, even though, it's almost like starting from square one again. It's just, yeah, it's just something I'm more passionate about. And I think having that hope for a better future, and like we said before, there's so much potential and possibilities with hope, but then combined with the action is what makes things, exciting. And I'm definitely well chuffed about tomorrow going back to school again, being a student. Yeah, no, I'm well chuffed. And I'm like, bring it on, ready for my next adventure and my actual career. Hopefully this is.
Nice to hear. And when you're ready to make those films and you need a lead dashing actor, I
Yeah,
might know someone.
yeah. Oh really? Wow, is he here? Is he on the call? Do I
Yes, Pasha.
It's funny, he's still here. He's just been staring at me from front of this. Like I'm talking, and then I'm like, "Can you stop staring at me, little boy?" But
He wants
yeah,
attention.
he does. You do, don't you? But you've had your lunch. What are you looking at me for, mate? I'm busy. Sorry. But yeah, no, all right, that's good to know. Yeah, yeah, that's not the. Yeah, it's funny every time I say, like, especially I remember on Hamlet when I said I'm an aspiring filmmaker. I want to make films. The times I get like, oh, if you ever need any actors, which I think is great because now I have loads of contacts in terms of if I need actors, I know who to go to. Good to.
100%. I think there's something about our industry. It feels so weird to say our industry. Like I've stepped into it very much like you as well. 2 months ago, if that it was from Hamlet, if I'm brutally honest.
Yeah,
That was my first experience of even wanting to do anything in this industry. But it
yeah.
reignited something for me, and it felt weird to, yeah, it's just totally different being on a film set to anything I've ever done in my life. But I see a lot of that as well, that networking that happens, but also a
Mm.
bit of brown nosing and also a bit of delusional hope. Uh, it feels really like loaded and judgmental for me to say that at this stage of my air quotes new career. But I do feel that if you can stay true to your authentic self as to why you want to do this, then the things will start naturally falling in your way, and the right things will start naturally falling in your way.
And that's one thing I love about being on set and stuff like that. Like, because I back in uni, I used to do like extra stuff on and off, and it would always be a similar vibe where you'd meet budding actors, or every now and then you'd meet people like me. I was free one Sunday and I needed extra cash, but you'd meet so many people who are like budding actors or budding filmmakers, and you can feel like the energy is just palpable in terms of how hopeful they are for
Mm,
big break or getting that exposure, and you can see it on people's faces, and it kind of it almost glistens on them where because they're so, I don't want to say delusional, but they've got this level of cool. I guess you have to be a bit delusional,
yeah, I
but
feel like you do. Yeah,
in a good way to like kind of mute out doubts, because once you let the seeds of doubt in, you kind of start, you won't, because sometimes you need to be a bit delusional to take big risks, which sometimes make you a success. So that's
mm,
great seeing these budding actors and actresses um, just get the exposure that they desire. And because people, when you go there, you meet lots of like-minded people. Everyone's in the same boat. You just feel the energy even more, and it's a great exchange of
yeah,
ideas, but an exchange of that emotional state of infancy. Because most people are either very early in their filmmaking acting career when you do not always, but a lot. You'll see a lot of people in their infancy there, and you feel that energy. And I think, yeah, I love being around it because there's like we've been talking about. There's just so much hope around it because the possibilities are endless in terms of collaborating and possibly seeing each other again and stuff. So yeah, no, I like those environments. But then obviously there's like pros and cons. Hours are long. Sometimes people, brown nose, like you said, and yeah, there's yeah,
or the jealousy and the negativity that kind of seeps in as well. But you're spot. We've gone full circle actually. At the beginning of the session, you were talking about frequency and vibes, and I'm looking at my vision board. So you know, I do vision boarding in the video itself. Actually, when I did the vision board, I said about this whole phrase, be delulu, be delusional about everything. And but there was something about that phrase that didn't sit right with me because it sounds like it's loaded with a bit of sarcasm. Like, or there is a little element of delusion means that you're tapped, mate. You're not even thinking right, and that doesn't sit right with me. So I kind of replaced the word delusion with being bold or being brave. And you're right, being on a film set, actually, regardless of whether you are experienced or not, requires that element of bold and braveness because even the people who are very experienced also have hope for the next movie, the next job. Who can I impress that takes me on to the next one? Because it's like consultancy. You don't actually have, it's not a full-time employment that you've got the security after this job. And I've also sadly seen people being taken off jobs like that at the click of a finger. And I'm just like, wow, that's brutal, but like really brutal. So you can't help but have a real high sense of hope for whatever it is your personal trajectory in that space. And I think being around those people and being around those conversations is more helpful, beneficial, healing compared to some of the circles that I might have in my current friend circle who would be like, you want to act? Lol, cool. And it's like, all right, didn't need your negative energy. Thank you. That's to one side because those people only know a certain version of you. And sometimes when you meet people who are a complete blank canvas, they're like, yeah, go for it. What's stopping you in life?
yeah, exactly. It's almost like you need to kind of. Oh yeah, I find the people who are the most. Well, it reminds me of when I was in Goa, in my travels. I spent a few days in a Portuguese kind of town, but then I went north to this place called, I think it's called Arambol, and it was full on hippie vibes. But and I was very tempted by the hippie vibe because my hair was long, I had a big beard. I blended in, but it reminded me of the. I love the fact that people were very open minded. They were not judgmental at all, and I think there's a level of kind of. I don't want to say that they're just like just dopey because they're just high all the time, but there's that level where they don't let the space of negativity in anymore, or the judgment that was once in their lives. They're at a place where it's almost like they don't care anymore. So I feel like when you let go of caring too much, you come to a place that you don't need to judge anymore. You don't need to listen to the because it's almost like when if you are a judgmental person, it kind of tells me that you're letting the voices that maybe you heard from a kid that was external to you now become internalized.
Intel. Mm.
You're kind of reflecting on other people, and everything's basically stems from childhood. We all have some kind of trauma. You could stem it to some Freudian Jungian stuff, but yeah, that's the that's the kind of gist of it. But sorry, I've waffled again, but
Not
yeah,
at all. I think that brings us to a nice little conclusion to the end of this episode, where we're talking about how hope is most powerful when it is authentically coming from within, whether that's the thing that drives you and that drives you, not what other people's voices are that drives you. That's the more effective kind of hope. And then it's a discipline, it's a car, it's the fuel to drive a car, it's the seed that helps the plant grow. And then we put in the actions and the perseverance. And sometimes we don't even realize when that hope has started to show the fruits of labor. So to wrap up this episode, Rayhan, tell me something that you are hopeful for in 2024.
oh, good question. So I am hopeful for yeah, I'm hopeful to I guess one, hopeful that my filmmaking journey, my master's goes well, and I'm hopeful for yeah, I'm hopeful that I'll create stuff that instills meaning and that will make people feel. Because I think when I, because the aim is to become filmmaker, director, that kind of stuff. But I want to make films that make you cry, basically. I want to make things that move you. And there are certain projects that I've been kind of letting off for too long. And this is the year where like I want to put it in action. So like there's one that I've been like doing research for too long. And I just like at this point, once I get my car working, I can like organize it, but it's a documentary that follows the culinary journey about Bangladeshi or the impact that Bangladeshi immigrants have had in UK food. So
Yes.
yeah, I definitely want to get that one sorted, and then a few short films. Some of them are about love and heartbreak and all that jazz. And yeah, I just want to create stuff. So I'm hopeful that those will go down, and I'll put them into because I think an idea is more powerful. Like I'd say having how do I put this in words? It's better to have a crap film than a good film. A crap it's better to have a crap film in real life than a really good film that's just in your head,
Yeah,
basically.
100%. If you don't do it now, then when are you ever going to do it? It's literally what I believe. That's why the podcast is so messy because I'm like, don't wait for perfection, man. Just do it,
Exactly.
film it, get it out there.
Yeah,
I'd much rather regret the things I did do than didn't do.
exactly. And can I ask you the same question? We'll see you hopeful for this.
Or, I'm hopeful for my vision board to be complete. But even if it's not complete, the things that I would like to have for definitely done is to have my research published or at least on its way there, and to carry on my journey with acting, because it's something that I've just got back into after many years of a hiatus.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I really want to see myself either on stage or on in a role on a film or something like that, just telling a story that is meaningful and that is impactful.
Mm.
That's my core thing is to find a story that's meaningful and impactful. Yeah, really, really resonates with what you said. Those are the
Cool.
two main things I think from my vision board.
Cool. I'd love to hear more about that, and especially the I've seen clips of you dancing as well. You could always become a famous dancer, right?
Do you know what? That's it's one of those things that when I was it was very much like the acting thing, had to leave it behind when I was 16, 17 because that's not what good Asian boys do, you know.
Really?
So yeah, yeah. And then very much like when you were speaking about your sisters, for example, I very much relatable. I grew up with brothers, but I
Okay.
wouldn't even now, it's not necessarily something that I would consult them on because I'm quite certain and very confident in myself that this is what I like doing. So dance, I
Yeah.
think, is definitely more of a one that greases the wheels, keeps me happy, keeps me fit, keeps me excited, keeps me learning something new. But acting is probably something more that I'd like to be able to build in terms of an actual career choice or something that I can, like I said, tell stories through.
Awesome. I'd love to hear more about your acting journey. Yeah, we should for real sometime. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, when you are doing your Bengali documentary, you have to come to Brick Lane, obviously, and that's kind of
Yeah.
like the middle part of our where we
Yeah.
live. So we can meet there at some point and obviously eat Bengali food like we don't get that at home. So
That-
eat Bengali food at Brick Lane and catch up more.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan.
Thank you so much, Rayhan, for joining us, and I will catch you on maybe another episode in the future. But we wish you, on behalf of all the listeners, all the best for your journey tomorrow, and hope to see you at some Oscars, the Academy, some big filmmaking name in the future. We're going to be like, we heard it first. We heard it first. It was on this podcast.
Exactly on Afsar's podcast, character strength. We lamented it here. Set in stone, hope for the future. Bob's your uncle. We got this in the bag.
Oh. You know, as I'm editing this podcast, it feels so weird to think that we're now coming towards the end of April, and I don't know what hopes I had actually for this podcast when I first started it in January. I think the main thing was, if I remember rightly, the intention was to learn more about myself through character strengths. And I would say to an extent I have. I think it's going to get more challenging now as we move forward because so far we've been delving into my signature strengths, which have kind of come easily to me. They're almost like my, my bread and butter, the things that make me survive every day, if you like, or thrive, I should say. Um, and it will be quite interesting now to see how things challenge because I've already hit a bit of a milestone in terms of, or I should say, a bit of a hurdle. Not a massive one, but just thinking about, oh, who could I bring in for the next episode? Like Judgment, it's kind of a difficult one. So if you have already done the VIA character strengths profile and Judgment is maybe somewhere high up for you and you can see why that is, you can think about how to apply it to your professional or your personal life, then get in touch. I'd love to have a chat with you perhaps on the next episode. For now, I want to leave you with an intervention that I did at the very beginning of my journey when I was learning all about character strengths and positive psychology. It was actually my very first assignment in interventions in positive psychology, and it's one that definitely nurtures the character strength of hope. The intervention is called Best Possible Self, and it asks you to, I'm going to invite you all to do it. Take some time out for 4 days, 4 days in a row, perhaps 4 days in the forthcoming week, and I'd like you to just write about the best possible version of yourself over a period of 20 minutes. As always, it's always a good idea to try and handwrite, as something about mindful and slowing yourself down with that. But I guess it doesn't really make a difference how you do it. I found that physiologically it makes a bit of a difference when you physically handwrite it, but that's all it is. Studies have shown that this has been quite important and impactful in improving people's subjective and psychological well-being, improving their anticipations for the future, improving levels of hope. So I was quite shocked actually. I was very new into my positive psychology journey when I first did this intervention, and I was shocked because we did a scale before and after each session, and you did it at the beginning and end of the intervention, and you measured your levels of happiness using that scale. And being a cynic that I am, I was impressed and pleasantly surprised to see actually how much of an impact that it did have, and it generally made my day feel a lot better. So yeah, go ahead, give yourself a go. If it makes it any easier for you guys, I categorize my 4 days worth of 20-minute writing into four different parts of my life. So, for example, on day one, I wrote about the best possible version of myself in regards to fitness. The next one, I did the best possible version in regards to myself in terms of academia. You could choose spirituality, you could choose your finances, you could choose your business, you could choose your family, your relationships, whatever it is, but the best possible version of you. And you write about yourself as if you are there already. Okay, so give that a go. Let me know how it works. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your entries if you want to. And until next time, I will catch you next month on another episode of Character Strengths 24 in 2024. Thanks for listening.